So, in this conversation, we are going to talk about how you can use tax free savings accounts as part of your retirement income strategy. Now, before we jump into the conversation, we've produced a couple of videos in the past about TFSAs. So, naturally, we thought it would be helpful to discuss how you can use TFSAs and tax free savings accounts as part of your retirement income strategy. We'll leave the links to the past videos in the description down below that discuss the mechanics, features, and benefits of TFSAs. So feel free to go watch those videos as a little refresher and then jump back into this video. Now, Shaun, you've obviously worked with hundreds of families to prepare hundreds of retirement planning forecasts. So, in your experience, what are some of the key uses of tax free savings accounts in the context of retirement income planning?
Well, it's a great question, Josh. I mean, I think, to begin with, like you said, folks should go to the links and take a look at the mechanics of TFSA. So the videos go into a lot of detail. But at a high level, when we think about a tax-free savings account, we think about an account that is a place to park investments and all the investment earnings grow on a tax-free basis. So it's a really valuable account. And so the default is, as a result of the power of tax-free savings accounts, if you had to sort of triage which account to use in your retirement income plan, usually the logic is start drawing on your RSPs or RIF income payments early in retirement, start deaccumulating out of your RSPs and RIFs. If you need to, depending on your tax bracket, supplement out of your non-registered portfolio if you have assets in the non-reg account. And then the last account to use would be a tax-free savings account because that account is so valuable. You want to allow that money just to compound on a tax-free basis over the years. But I think we'll talk today in our discussion that there might be some counterintuitive ways of looking at it, and we'll take a look at a couple of examples. But yeah, I think that the TFSA has some lots of applications, and we can maybe talk about some of those applications for retirement income plans.
Yeah, that's really good. So now let's say, for example, I'm a little bit partial to the idea of using other financial assets before tapping into my TFSA. Do you happen to have an example that will illustrate what you're talking about and kind of help make it more practical for people watching?
Yeah, and in fact, I was talking to a client family fairly recently, and we developed a model, and I'll show you on the screen. We created a model where we actually drew down from the RIF accounts when they retired, and then we supplemented with their non-registered portfolio, and we left the TFSA alone. And we modeled that against other scenarios, and it was a pretty efficient scenario. But then we compared that scenario to a scenario we actually drew on the TFSAs earlier. So I can show you an example if you wanted to just see an illustration.
Yeah, let's pull it up.
So I have on my screen just an illustration. Basically, we had our client's family wanted to spend $80,000 per year of after-tax income through the retirement years. And then they had some lump sum expenses for vehicle acquisitions, that kind of thing. And so I'll just show you the chart that will demonstrate sort of how we drew down on the financial assets. So again, visually, the purple is their basic lifestyle need of $80,000 per year after tax. They had some travel goals in this dark blue, tax costs, and they were reinvesting money into their TFSAs. But they were fully funding their long-term retirement right out to about age 90. You can see this dotted line here in the SNAP projection. They were beginning to run shortfalls in the very last year of the analysis. Now, in terms of the drawdown strategy, if you look at this chart, it shows you in the yellow is the non-registered portfolio. The green here are the RIF minimum payments. And then eventually by their 63rd year, they fully depleted their non-reg portfolio, and now they're going into their RIF account. And then at age 74, this dark green represents the tax-free savings accounts. Now, again, we can look at another example where maybe we put more pressure on the RIF account in the early years, less pressure on the non-reg. But we went through this analysis. And let me, first of all, give you an example. You see this green? That's money coming from the TFSA accounts. That year, they were buying a new vehicle. And had they pulled money from the other accounts, it would have bumped them into another tax bracket. That's a great example of how you can use TFSAs in your retirement income plan. I think they could be really used tactically to pay for larger expenses in a tax effective way. So this model, basically the client had this income requirement in the purple and the dark blue. They fully met it for the most part. We didn't put pressure on the TFSA until the 74th year. And then their net worth position sort of held constant over the length of the analysis. So you can see the non-reg portfolio depleted by their mid-60s, RIF accounts by 73, and then their TFSAs were fully depleted out to age 89, basically. Okay, so again, TFSA was tactically used to pay for some lump sum expenses here. And so in this particular iteration, and this is the real power of retirement income planning, is you can, do a first draft, see how it looks. They're basically funding it. But you notice something really important. It looks like the tax plan is a little bit inefficient, right? So they're paying, some level of tax, then it gets bumped up when their non-reg portfolio is fully depleted, and then it goes to basically almost zero once you start relying almost exclusively on tax-free savings accounts to provide the income. And then there's a balance sheet. So did you want to take a look at another iteration? We ran another iteration that basically put less pressure on the RIF account and more pressure on the TFSA account in the early years. And you'll see the tax profile change as well.
Yeah, I think that would be really helpful.
Okay, so what I've brought up here is a second iteration. And in this iteration, we just made a few changes. So again, we've got the $80,000 per year of after-tax income need. The dark blue represents travel expenses and then some car expenses. That's what these balloon payments right here represent. You can see that the income sources chart looks quite a bit different. Again, we put pressure on the non-registered portfolio in the first few years. We took out some RIF payments. We did have, looks like we've got some inefficiencies, some minor inefficiencies in the age 63, 64 into 65 in this analysis. So the tax rate goes up a little bit. And then it's very constant for almost the whole length of the retirement. So what you see here is a more even distribution of the RIF payments over the length of retirement. And then we brought into the analysis at age 65 consistent income payments from the TFSA accounts to fund cash flow. So now it's this stacking approach. Rather than plowing through all the registered assets, we're now stacking, old age security, CPP, RIF payments, and TFSA withdrawals. And that's a little bit counterintuitive. Most people want to delay the use of the TFSAs. In fact, many clients and many people default to saying, you know what, the TFSA, I'm never going to use it. That's my inheritance account. That's what I'm going to give to the kids. There's no major tax consequences, but it may not be the best way of funding retirement income. So you have to begin thinking about what your priorities are. Here's the net worth statement. Now, what you see here is, remember in the previous analysis, they actually had run out of money by age 89. In this analysis, they still have financial assets.
Now, does the software allow you to compare two different scenarios to quantify the financial difference between the two approaches?
Yeah, that's one of the things the software does a really good job of. So you can create multiple iterations and then compare them in terms of their differences. So let's take a look at the comparison software application. So what you see on the screen is I brought up the two applications, two models. We've got sample one here in this first column was at, RIF minimum payments, some non-reg drawdown. And then once a non-reg was fully depleted, we put pressure on the RIF account, and the last account to use was the TFSA. That's this first column. And then the second column is the one that we just reviewed, which is we took a more even distribution between TFSA income and RIF income. Of course, the TFSA income was tax-free, and we were comparing the two. So the first scenario, we actually were a little bit short. So that plan was 99% successful. So as a percentage of the goal achievement, it was almost there, but not quite. And when we did the gradual meltdown of the TFSA at age 65 to life expectancy, we exceeded the plan by 2%. Now, that's a difference of 3%, which doesn't sound like very much. But if you go to, like, this comparison report takes it from today, so 2025, when the family is retiring, couple's retiring, and I took it out to their age 85. So we'll say age 85 out to life expectancy. And so the comparison tool allows us to see the difference between the two. So you can see here under financial assets, the first model, they had 351,674 in financial assets left, in addition to the real estate. And they had 55,588 in the second analysis. So actually, we enhanced their asset base at age 85 to the tune of $203,914, even though we were drawing down on the TFSAs that were generating tax-free income and pulling a more gradual drawdown from the RIF account. So this is a great example of, maybe for some people out there, seems like a counterintuitive, analysis that they would have defaulted to not using the TFSAs. And yet in this particular circumstance, it made sense. So every client circumstance is unique. So this may not make sense for everyone, but when we do a retirement income engagement, we'll look at different scenarios to see which one's the most efficient one to drive the retirement income objectives.
I think that was a really practical example. So now, if someone's watching this and they're going, hey, I want access to that scenario planning for myself, how could they do that?
Yeah, like if you go to the show notes, there's a link back to our website, and the homepage has information about our retirement planning services. And we offer folks a complimentary 30-minute meeting. So you can book a Zoom call or a phone call, and I can share with you how our process works, how the analysis is prepared for you, and we'd be pleased to have a chance to connect and talk about our retirement income planning services. So yeah, just go to our website and there's information there. And we also have some free resources. So on the homepage, you can get some free retirement income planning resources that you can use in your own retirement income planning.
And lastly, if you're not yet subscribed, what are you waiting for? Make sure to do so. We produce retirement planning content regularly, and so it'll be a really good resource for your own journey. I believe that is it for this video. Thank you for watching. We'll catch you in the next video. Take care.